Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Gigi Haycock, and I am one of the programmers at the SF Doc Fest. And I am so happy to have joining me today Gilda Shepherd, the director of Since I've Been Down, and Kamante Carter, who is an educator and is in the film and in prison. Yes?
No.
Oh, that's why you're out. I was wondering.
The power of art, but primarily the power of art to open the door to see what is possible. He's because of his work, let's be clear. But by privilege in a responsible way and put it on him, and he became the spine of the film and then the spine of justice.
Oh, that great. Congratulations.
We sitting here on Broadway here in Capitol Hill, Seattle.
Yeah.
In a classroom.
And he's free.
Oh, this is wonderful. You know, the film starts a lot with statistics and what was happening in the 80s and the 90s, you know, and just how bad the Hilltop was, and just how it just took over, you know, people's lives and everything, and how then, of course, the three strikes you're out, no parole thing happened. All of that is just terrible, obviously. But then the film evolves into what I see as such a hopeful film about Kamante, especially like what you have done and the others that have been part of the educational system in what you created in the prisons that you were in. So tell me a little bit about you being on Broadway on Hilltop. I mean, I'm sorry, on Capitol Hill.
Go ahead.
The film, I wanted to expose some of the systemic reasons why young people, particularly Black and Brown people, had a non-negotiable pathway to joining gangs and then sweeping them into prison. So we really put a light on the school to prison pipeline. But the thing about it is, it's not like prison works, but because these young men, and I also went to the women's prison, and the young women started reading and thinking and joining organizations, particularly the Black Prisoners Caucus, the prisoner initiated program. They started helping one another to analyze this, to be critical and creative thinkers, and started doing classes about their culture and those kinds. So they develop a systemic analysis. And I was one of those teachers. I was a volunteer teacher. I was teaching in a refugee camp in Ghana, West Africa. And at the end of that, one of the women in the camp said, you know, Sis Gilda, the same AK-47s that you see in a child soldier's hands in Liberia are in your children's hands, and you need to do something about that. And it was a different kind of colonialism in neighborhoods. And these young men and women realized that they had been colonized. So they decided not to colonize their mind. And so what happened was we did this film, we showed it to legislators, lawyers, judges, families, community leaders, people who were still banging, gangbangers and everything. And they heard it from the source. They heard it from and so it kind of woke up. They woke them up to, I use the word woke because, you know, it's so weaponized now, but it increased their consciousness, right? And so, but it's not like what's going on in Hilltop has ceased. However, since Kamante Carter and his colleagues are out, they started a Black Prisoners Caucus community group. And so they are doing things in the Hilltop community to talk to youth about their possibilities and not call them at risk, but call them under-resourced. And not just the kids, not just the youth, but their families and on. But Kamante is the one who's doing it. I just put my camera up.
So Kamante, is teach part of what you're doing? Is that the outreach?
Yeah, and you know, the outreach is really a part of all of the work that we do through the BPC, right? And teach is just a lot of our educational component, right? It's just where we're really, focus our time and energy on just helping folks get skilled, resource, right? But really supported around learning, around different ways in which we learn, in which we collaborate, in which we can, successfully engage in ideas and thoughts and practices. And so it creates a liberating learning space. And that's what we're doing in community also.
That's great.
Liber-
Oh, sorry. One of the things that was really impressive to me is had the diversity of those educational classes, people who in prison wouldn't not have been, in a room together doing what and listening to what you all were doing. Does that also come over into what you're doing with it outside as well? Kind of educating like we're human?
Well, I would say, yeah, those are our values. Those are our values. And so when we talk about how do we enrich a community, we enrich the community with the people who live there, the people who are impacted there, right? And so we continue to remain inclusive in our work, but primarily we tend to focus on folks who are greatly marginalized as a way for us not to lose focus of where all of this started from.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gilda.
TEACH stands for Taking Education and Creating History. Not changing it, creating it. And that's what they're doing. They're working across significant differences and finding connections. It's amazing what they do.
Well, I felt that throughout, I couldn't believe it, like in a way that it was just people coming together. And I'm going to tell you, they're reading books that I've never read. I think it was like Kant or something like that. Somebody had said at some point, and it was amazing, that interest and that person is in you the whole time,
Sure.
and that is what you brought out, is that you are all that you are, and you just need to, have the education and the opportunity to, right?
Not snake salesmen or snake oil salesmen, right? We're selling self-perspective, right? We're selling that patience of mind and spirit. And I think that as we encourage folks to look inside and to challenge themselves to push past those boundaries, that's what we find. We find people who are now encouraged and motivated and now very confident in their abilities to, learn, read, engage, and participate, right? In all of the things that is in our community. It's different. It's non-traditional.
Yeah. Yeah. In the first bit, when you started to do these, it was so interesting. You said memory. Y'all were talking about memory, that no one was there, so I don't need anybody. Perception, look out for yourself. Reasoning, who else is going to do it? And problem solving. And just even putting those out there when people started realizing, oh yeah, that's how I felt. And now I have an opportunity not to feel that way, because now there's a different family for me. That was very touching to me.
When you're in the mix,
yeah.
there's a tendency, it's the Comanche says in the film, you avoid reflection at all cost.
Yeah.
You don't think critically or creatively, but all the time they are. But but how do you mold that? And when Damar from the Black Persons Caucus and TEACH, Taking Education and Creating History, created that healthy thinking class, he went to not what did you do? Let's mourn what we did. Yes, they mourn. You see some of the young men and women crying in the film. However, when you see them on their knees, they're getting up. When they are able to reflect on why this happened, take responsibility, okay, but also look at the systemic and legislative problems. And now they're out here speaking to legislators, judges. We're going to have a meeting with the Department of Neighborhoods, the City Council, the King Council. They saw the film. They said, we need to talk about this, because they don't, prisons are so far away, and you think, oh, I got to save my kids. I don't want them to be in gangs, so let's get rid of them. It becomes a zero-sum kind of practice. I can say that if I had a child in Hilltop with the Crips and the Bloods all around, I would be afraid too. I had to admit my contradictions. Right?
Yeah.
But and so when you admit your contradictions, you got to face it. At first, you're ashamed of yourself, and then you go and you realize there are people's humanity and possibility. So yeah.
That really came through. So part of the end is that you were denied clemency, Monty. How did this come to be?
Well, how did my freedom come to be? My freedom came to be. Well, yes, I did get denied clemency, so that's not what opened the door for me. There was a Washington State Supreme Court case that was argued by Jeff Ellis on two gentlemen, Stephen Bartholomew and Curtis Munchke. And what they did was they extended the Miller fix to include 18, 19, and 20-year-olds who had mandatory sentences. And so what that Washington State Supreme Court case did was it made my sentence unconstitutional and then referred me back to court for resentencing. And so I went back for resentencing July 8th, 2022, and got resentenced in front of Stanley Rumbaum, and he changed my life that day. And he was able to see my humanity.
Yeah. And legislation changed, right? The brain science changed, because we're not only like free Comanche, okay, but we're talking about, look at what we're doing to children before they go to prison or the juvie prison. What are we doing in education? Is violence a public health issue? Why does I go to a classroom teaching sociology, and this young man said he's been in prison since he was 13. An adult prison? Come on, And one of the smartest young men in the class, he's not in prison anymore because of that brain science, But we can wait till legislation changes, but we need to do something about these institutions now. And that's the reason why Comanche and his colleagues are doing phenomenal work in schools. We're visiting a middle school. We showed it at a high school. I was with fourth graders the other day, having them talk about things from at their level. But it's not happening. Well, it is happening sometimes, But like this gentleman right here, he's like my son, right? They all become my family. Yeah. Develop this learning community. They all become my family but oftentimes my teachers and my wake up people, what I mean? Yeah. Gigi, thank you for seeing the film and seeing its value. We're so grateful.
Oh, well, thank you. I felt like I was being taught so much, and that's what I'm hoping, this conversation that we're having is going to be seen and can be seen in addition to the film. So, they can, because it's always so nice to hear the people that are involved with the film to kind of give an even more deep aspect and complex look at a film that you've just seen, and especially a film so incredibly moving as yours is. And I wanted to point out the poetic part of it as well. The dance, and on the steps, and then all that. I thought that was an amazing addition. And then the drone shots in the forest, and then, having interviews there instead of inside the walls.
I want to go to the place where they were. Right. It may be woo-woo, but sometimes when you're in the context of where you've been, your spirit becomes freer, and you can look around and a leaf looks different, right? And that's what we can do in cinema, and the reason why I had the dance and the crumping dance is because I went to this thing with one of my young students, and there was this guy who's crumping. I thought, what? And I was thinking about what Comanche and Tanya and Devin and Olaf and all of them were talking about, what was going on inside of themselves. Comanche said that, somebody said, well, Comanche likes school now. I said, likes learning now. I said, he always liked learning. It was schools that were the problem. And Comanche said this, he realized if he didn't go to school, his teacher didn't miss him. And so, when I hear that, I go like, and you don't think, oh, these are bad kids. They don't care nothing about it, but they do. They want love. And so it's internal. So when I saw that crump dancing, it helped me to see, and I wanted the audience to see how they moved internally, right? Yeah.
Oh, that was, it's an amazing film, and I really appreciate the talking to me about it and everybody else who will be seeing this film, and I wish you all the best with everything, and I'm gonna keep track, okay?
Oh, yeah, yeah, please do. Thank you, Gigi. We
All
wish you, we were there.
Yeah. for sure. Oh, come on, man. We're gonna be there soon.
Yeah, right. We're gonna be there.
Oh, have a great day.
Okay, you too. Thank you. Have a
Bye.
good one.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
Okay.